Well, folks, here we are again at the beginning of a weekend, and of course during this last week we've seen some very chilly air during the early part of the week, and as the week progresses we've been gradually warming up. Now there was some hard freeze conditions met in the northern half of the Panhandle, particularly as we got into the Tuesday morning time frame, and we've had reports of some damage to the alfalfa and suspected damage to some of the wheat that was starting to head. We followed that up on Wednesday morning with some temperatures primarily in the lower 30s to the mid 30s across the same general areas extending into the western sandhills, so we do expect there will be some residual damage, but outside of that we're not hearing much in way of significant damage. There was pockets where we got down to freezing, but it doesn't look like anything widespread in terms of rapidly wiping out some existing crops that are currently up. Now in terms of corn planting, we hit 75% completion as of Sunday with the dry weather and the warming conditions. My suspicion is as we get into next week's release, but will go through Sunday, we'll essentially be at the 90% level in terms of corn planting, and in terms of soybeans we'll probably move from the lower 20s to at least 50% planted, and depending on how quickly the producers get their crops in, we could actually be approaching the 70% planted on the soybeans as we get into the Monday release, so we'll have to wait to see for that. Now in terms of our forecast, most of the moisture we're looking at is going to fall within this next 24 to 36 hour period, and after that a gradual warming trend with very warm conditions at the end of the week. So let's take a look at the upper air models and see what we can expect as we move through this 7-day period. And as we go to the upper charts, what we're looking at right now is a system that brought the cold front slowly through the state. It's kind of moving its way to the Great Lakes, and we do have it basically hanging up here in southern Nebraska, so our temperatures are going to be significantly cool with a cloudy condition. We'll be looking at highs in the mid-50s to the north, to the mid-60s across the south, and the precipitation will be coming to an end from north to south as the day progresses, and there may be a little bit of moisture residual left over across extreme southern Nebraska as we get into tomorrow morning. And by tomorrow morning, what we are going to see is that the trough itself lifts off, and we're going to start to see the warm air trying to return. So any of the moisture will kind of settle to our south. We'll start to see clearing conditions, and it's going to be a rather nice Mother's Day as we're going to be looking at highs in the east across the eastern Nebraska in the mid-60s. As we get into western Nebraska, we'll be looking at the low 70s. Now we even warm up a little bit more on Monday as the ridge starts to build into our region from the west. We're going to drop a few degrees. We're looking at highs in the low 70s across the east to the upper 70s across the west under mostly sunny skies. As we go into Tuesday, now the ridge even pushes a little bit farther into our region. The trough is still hanging off over the Great Lakes, but we're looking at highs in the mid-70s east to the mid-80s west. As we go into Wednesday, the ridge starts to take control of our region. We're looking at highs in the east across into the low 80s. In the west, we're looking at the low 90s. On Thursday, a little bit more of the same, a few more degrees, highs mid-80s east to the low 90s west. You see a trough coming in the western United States. That's going to come a little bit closer as we get into Friday, and we could see some thunderstorms developing out in western Nebraska. We're looking at highs in the upper 80s east to the mid-90s to the west. 8 to 14 day forecast keeps the warmer temperatures to our north, and in terms of precipitation, we're looking at that trough moving in, and there could be some severe weather outbreaking next weekend.